Hi guys. Um, what's up, everyone? So it's Xuan here. That thing is pronounced as Xuan. People also call me Hux, and at Hux Pro, because that's the internet name I use everywhere on Twitter, GitHub, YouTube. So not gonna lie, this is my very first English talk at an in-person conference. So thank you. Also, big thanks to React Summit and GitNation to invite me to here, and this definitely is different. So I've actually been part of the React community for a while, especially during my time at Meta. I was involved with ReasonML very early on, and then helped Hermes become the best JavaScript engine for React Native. And if you didn't forget that talk at ReactConf 2021, that drops the idea of React Forget, that was me. I helped bootstrap that idea, and 3 years later, we finally have React compiler, right? Yeah, it feels unreal that React without memo is now real. So, but today I want to share something new. I've been working with another awesome team 2 years since then. It's called Lynx. Lynx isn't like React Forget. It's not like solving a pain that everybody already felt. I'm curious, how many of you have already heard of Lynx? Hands up. Well, plenty of you. Wow, that's awesome. Like nobody was probably asking for something like Lynx, we thought. So it's like rather it's here for more. It's like bringing more things to the table. And I will show you what that means in the rest of the talk. So we open sourced the Lynx back in March with this blog. And honestly, we didn't anticipate it gonna go viral. Thanks to all the Twitter celebrities who tweeted about us. But personally, what really hit me is that I started to see YouTube video pop up in language that I don't understand at all. So like, I can't watch those without YouTube translation. And that was just wild. Of course, there are also English content. Kostak did a really insightful live stream. Love it. We also absolutely didn't see that coming. Fireship dropped a video about us the very next day we open sourced. And then is Theo. It was still the blonde version of Theo. He also dropped a deep dive, and I really appreciate that he read through the entire blog post. So what is Lynx exactly? If you haven't heard of it, sorry I've been holding back to this point. I did on purpose, kind of want to make you feel a little bit formal. In essence, Lynx solves the same problem like web, React Native, Flutter, right? It tries to let you to just write code once and be able to build user interface and applications on any possible platforms. Currently, we support iOS, Android, and web, and there are more coming later this year. And Lynx is production ready. Lynx is heavily used by TikTok. So all the services here are built with Lynx. So if you've ever touched any of those, you are like a user of Lynx already. There's something like search panel, the TikTok Studio apps, the e-commerce site, the live stream gifting stuff, and interesting events like Disney 100 and Met Gala. And as for developer experience, because that's something we care about a lot, you kind of already knew, right? It looks super familiar, right? You can have this React-like APIs. You write JSX, markups, you have hooks. And on the right-hand side, I'm just showing off its links pages rendering on the web. So you can see it's very interactive. And the interesting bit comes to here. Like, when it comes to styling user interface, you can use real CSS. Right? That means CSS variables, CSS selectors, and even that beautiful gradient and animation transition. So at this point, some of you may be like, is Lynx another web browser? I mean, if you Google, well, I probably shouldn't say that. If you chat GPT it, it's probably going to say yes, because there's actually a browser called Lynx. Wrong Lynx, sorry. But for us, yes, yes-ish. Like, we use languages from web like markup, CSS, JavaScript, but the purpose, and even framework like React, right? The purpose is that you guys and all the developer community to be able to reuse existing web knowledges, and still be able to build for any platform with native capability and native UIs. So we need to make some changes, right? So Lynx exists because we don't feel like web is perfect. We believe web isn't innovating fast enough, so we want to try something better. I mean, I love web, but like if web browser is like the best, why haven't we write any mobile UIs with web browsers? I'm rooting for web. I still believe web has the best possible scale regarding reachability to users. If you build for Apple, you can only reach Apple users. If you build with web, it's literally everywhere, right? You can reach any users on any devices. That's the beauty of web. The other beauty of web is web offers kind of unmatchable velocity, right? If you build for native, this probably take a while for your experience to get to the users. But when you build for web, it ships incredibly fast, right? This is too fast, we have to see that again, right? That's how fast web is. So we love web. We love the scalability and reachability and velocity of web. And web's supposed to win. Why did web lose in the mobile market at least? One of the key figures, he was giving another talk yesterday, Alex Russell, in our industry, right, key figure in our industry, who had worked on Blink and Edge and Chromium and many web standards. He shared his insights in his blog, and he called it out. Like any other meta platform means platform, right? Like web, thrives or declines, live or die, based on whether they can do most of the things we expect most computer to do. And this idea he named platform adjacency theory. Basically, a meta platform like the web, it got to keep adopting capability from the host platforms, so it maintains the adjacency and makes sure the gap is like not too large. But when it fails to do so, right, this relevance gap will grow bigger and bigger, then there are so many capabilities that is missing there, and the people stop care about it. The user not gonna like it, the developer gonna go, right? So the same diagram, right? If we, even though we could deliver the experience at reach, at scale, very fast, but if the experience is not good enough, nobody like it, then it's still not going to be the platform we are building for. So that is unfortunately what web has been suffered for a while, and I always quote Thomas like this sentence from his initial introduction of React Native. It's like 2015. Anytime somebody tries to implement native widgets with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it always feels like shit. I mean, nowadays it's getting much better. I've seen a lot of great design engineer who started to, recreating a lot of great stuff. But like when it comes to some of the really tricky part, like scroll, especially like multiple scroll and gesture, multi-finger gesture, that started to kind of fall apart. And this tools like PhoneGap, Cordova, React Native Flutter, these tools, they appeared, they indicate that the relevance gap was too large. So we as web developers, we have to trade off some of the best part of the web in return for those necessary capability from the native platform so we can ship real stuff, right? And Lynx is no different, right? We starting from the language of web, and we need to go more native. All right, so personally, I would think all these technologies are chasing the same North Star, which is trying to hit the 3 points at once. Lynx actually use native primitive, like native views. In Lynx, tags like text, view, images, they are rendered into native UI, same as React Native. Right? You gonna have UI view, actual UI view, and actual view group. And one of the most fresh example of this approach is that liquid glass, right? Like by adopting this approach, it's much easier to have that basically for free. The other example is that very complicated and expensive layout, such as multi-column animationary or waterfall, like different people call it different name. It's very popular, but it's still very tricky to get it right and perform it on web. But with Lynx, because you use native primitive, you can actually have it built in. So in Lynx, it's very easy. You just declare a type and you got it. The other part of native primitive are native module, right? Being able to access those OS level API. Our documentation only give you a tutorial on how you could like build local storage with Android shared preference and iOS kind of APIs, and based on a shared TypeScript declaration. That's cool, right? Like you can have that capability. But if you've ever read the docs, you may notice that we mentioned Lynx is not ready for full-fledged app development just yet. That's because Lynx is more like an engine. Like you should think of it as more like Blink rather than Chromium, if you know what I'm talking about. And that has been the biggest feature request since we open sourced it. Honestly, we didn't expect things grow this fast, and we were not super ready for that. So I'm excited to share that later this year, we were open sourcing more native UI elements and a set of advanced UI components like swiper, action shed, tab bar, view pager, that kind of stuff. And that's not all. We will also open source the framework that TikTok has built on top of Lynx to support all their apps. And with that, you will finally be able to kind of build apps by having this whole set of toolkit, right? It's like the missing pieces there. Yeah, I can't wait to see it ship and to see what the community start to kind of build around it. Thank you. So now that we complete the picture of native primitive, right, that's not enough. To be truly native, you also want native, like close to native performance. And our secret sauce, like very notable architectural decision that we made is that we have two JavaScript runtimes running on two separate threads, the background threads and the main thread. We call it background thread scripting, so BTS, and main thread scripting, MTS. But that we will come back to that later. When we say performance, I mean two things. First, loading performance. Internally, we've seen product migrating to Lynx become significantly faster. And just to be clear, the web version we're loading from local files, not network I/O. So we were measuring rendering time, basically. And these are average number. In some cases, we can see things like 10 seconds become 1 second, that kind of stuff. So it's just average. So it's easier to believe with your eyes rather than those digits, I guess. And you can see that's like the first tutorial we kind of demoed in the website, and that's how fast it is. The first frame almost hits instantly. And this is like the 0.3 times slow motion. And you can still see it's like kind of instant. So this feature earned its nickname internally before we even kind of started to think about concept. And internally, people started to call it instant first frame rendering, or IFR. And that was like the killer feature to make Lynx heavily adopted within TikTok and any other products. We don't really have time to deep dive into it, but at a high level, it does a lot of stuff. Lynx has been a multi-year project. It takes your source code, right, and it kind of pre-render. Think of SSR, or the partial pre-rendering of Next.js. You kind of pre-render it to some lower level of abstraction, which is like closer to the structure of HTML or kind of tree operations. And then the Prim.js, which is the JavaScript engine, we kind of forked from Quick.js to be kind of more optimized for Lynx, say like adding new GC and change the FFI, that kind of stuff. So it also has the benefits of pre-compile your source code into bytecode. So by having that two tiers of pre-processing, at runtime, what it really needs to do is just the little red part, right? That little red arrow. So that's why the first kind of first frame is so instantly rendered. If you're on React Lynx, you will get this for free. Like the compiler and bundler will just do this for you. There's nothing you need to do. There's no API. But the second part of performance is about interactivity, right? You kind of want your interaction to feel snappy. And this wiper is silky-smooth. But to clarify, this is not a native widget. It's completely driven by JavaScript running on the main thread. So like you have full control over it. It's not like some of the kind of pre-scheduled animation system. So we call that feature MTS, main thread scripting. We will give a quick look at the code so you can kind of have an idea. So in this example, it kind of demonstrates the difference between having the background JavaScript thread to manage the draggable, or versus having the main thread to manage the draggable. And with MTS, it stays perfectly in sync with native scrolling, right? And the BTS version kind of lagged by 1 frame or so. And the API is like you use this main thread directive to mark a certain function that should be code splitted and scheduled to the main thread runtime. And at that runtime, you have access to some of the API to get the DOM nodes, like our version of DOM nodes, and you can start it to, wrap it in the ref for sure, and you can use a DOM-like API we call Elm API to do some imperative operations. So shout out to Reanimated from Software Mention and React Server Component, Next.js for all the inspiration. So yeah, we definitely take a lot of inspiration from them. And if you're coming from the web background, MTS might sound a bit confusing, right? Because on the web, everything happens on the main thread. The web has historically been single-threaded, so it has to do all the heavy lifting. The downside is that whenever something is very busy, then everything is slow, right? And that's why Lynx want to make this difference. By shipping two JavaScript runtime on two separate threads, we can minimize the workload on the main thread by offloading more work to the background JavaScript thread whenever possible. But it's not like you don't have web worker on the web, right? Like we have web worker for years. And in fact, the Chrome DevRel team has advocated for something similar, like they call off the main thread architecture, OMT. But the problem is it never really took off on the mainstream web ecosystem. I think the reason is kind of like we are too used to single-threaded model, and it's just super convenient and easy to use. Also, it's kind of pretty tricky for everyone to manually figure out, okay, which code should be run at which runtime and how to do synchronization, right? There are a lot of the mental overhead you need to think about. So what we did is that we didn't just provide two runtimes. We also enforced how they should be used from the level of APIs, like what kind of API we expose to that runtime, all the way up to how frameworks can be designed to enforce those static enforcement, right? Like concurrent safety and how to synchronize the UI, that kind of stuff. The BTS, is where like most of the user code goes, like re-rendering, reconciliation, side effects like fetch something and data processing. And MTS is reserved for privileged, synchronized UI access, right? Like you can, for instance, the IFR is one pass of MTS code, and you can do MTS. That's also like very high priority UI task. And that's how we make them very performant, because there's nothing kind of competing with it. And also that's why MTS is a concept in the first place. We won't go into too much detail, but the architecture gives us a lot of opportunities. I probably gonna save it for next talk. But it really just boils down to one principle: use the main thread more purposely and responsibly. Only tap into it when it's necessary. And we kind of build this platform and framework to help you to get there. So to wrap up, we intentionally kind of rethink and change some of the existing web practices, but not because we don't love web, but it's more like we want to fill the gap and to bring this community closer to the native ecosystem with native kind of relevance. But there is one more thing, right? Something we really want to say yes to web, and that's the web community, right? One thing I'm super the whole team is really proud of Lynx is how advanced it supports a lot of CSS visual effects, right? Like you have gradients and masks, clip paths, we even add super ellipse curve into that as an extension. So the best part of this approach is that you do not need to start from scratch. You can kind of reuse code from the web ecosystem, right? Because UI technologies, when I think about it at its core, it's just about deliver exceptional design and product, right? We shouldn't waste time to rebuild everything again and again. So if we can share assets and ecosystem, that would be the best. So how about Tailwind, right? Has been the best, kind of most popular styling library, especially in the age of AI. Because Lynx supports CSS natively, you can use tools like Sass, CSS module, and even Tailwind. The only thing to keep in mind is that our CSS feature coverage is definitely different from all the browsers. So we are experimenting with maintaining a Tailwind preset, and we definitely welcome the contributions there. Guangyu, one of the design engineer in the team, was able to port ShadCN UI, TwigCN, Daisy UI, and build a theme generator for Lynx. You can see from there, and the code is basically just plain Tailwind, and you use same CSS variable, same Tailwind classes, same Tailwind config.js. It just works. Yeah, it's going to be kind of open source, so definitely check out his Herd X for the work. And how about the other very popular libraries in the web ecosystem? Motion, right? Motion. I'm a big fan of Motion. How many of you are fans of Motion? Right? It's like so good. Yang, aka for Dream on Twitter, he experimented with bringing motion to Lynx, and besides of shimming some of the DOM API because like we don't have the exact same signature, the entire motion core just works. It only took him 1 or 2 days to make that demo. Wait, I should probably. Okay, now you see the demo. Yeah, and that's the code. When we first designed MTS, we just naturally want something low level and more imperative because we want to give the framework authors more control. But it turns out it's like really good to integrate with this kind of universal ecosystem, like libraries using vanilla JavaScript. And finally, the web isn't like limited to one library, right? The community can build however libraries and framework they want. And they want to embrace that same spirit at Lynx. That's why we say we want to democratize cross-platform technologies in the first place. I don't have time, so I'm just gonna skim over this. Vue has been one of the most requested frameworks, and Evan also shared this idea of having Vue native, and they're starting to have some community participation and contribution, and yeah, that's very exciting. Another thing is Svelte. Rich Harris also mentioned Lynx in his very recent talk at Svelte Summit, and the main matter is kind of led this effort, and if you are interested, definitely talk with them. It's super inspiring to see that happen. But personally, I'm most surprised to see this. How many of you can recognize this logo? Right? Not too much, I guess. It's Haskell. It's one of the kind of weirdest language in the world that heavily used by academia. I'm a fan of functional programming, so that's why I know a bit about it. But yeah, someone from the community poured a Haskell framework to Lynx, and that works. Yeah, that's like the Haskell code. So that's like the power of, I would say, embracing something like very open, in a very open manner. And yeah, that's the web community. That's the open web community, I would say. At this point, I hope the answer that what Lynx is a little bit more clear to you. So yes, we reserve the language because we want to preserve you. I've come to realize like what makes web amazing is not just the technology, it's about this community that is so wildly creative. You see how many people recreating Liquid class like in these days? That's crazy. And we really want you to, and also it kind of raise the generation of developers who can think cross-platform by default, right? Because we were kind of from there. So we really want you to think Lynx spiritually as alternative web for app development, right? So that you as web developers can confidently build upon. And the reason where we diverge is because we want to give you this new vocabulary, new primitive to hit the native experiences and native performance. And maybe a better question to ask is not yes or no, is how we can tear down the wall between the web and native a bit better so that we can together do more.